Want to create a massive army of double dragons that will overwhelm your opponents? Hi, I'm Anton with 4 Knights, bringing you commander decks you can build on a budget. And today we're going to take a look at Miirym Sentinel Wyrm. Miirym is a 6/6 dragon spirit with flying and ward 2 and reads, whenever another non-token dragon you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it is not legendary. So this will let us get double the value out of all of the different dragon cards we're going to run. The name of the game here is going to be to spam out our dragon cards, getting double the value out of our enter the battlefield effects, and to create a massive army with flying so we can wipe our opponents off the board. Let's jump into our deck profile, and if you would like to run Miirym, links to our list will be down in the description. Let's jump into some of the core options that will be unique in a Miirym deck, and we'll start off by talking about some dragons that have useful enter the battlefield effects. That way we can double them. So this first bulk of creatures are all going to be designed to have some additional spread damage. And let's start off with the Thunder Dragon. So when this enters, it's going to deal 3 damage to each creature without flying. Already pretty good, but if we have Miirym out, this hence doubles, so we'll end up actually be dealing 6. And this is actually a fairly substantial board wipe with just this one card. Next we have Drakaseth, Maw of Flames. This will instead allow us to have some targeted ping damage when it will be attacking, still very valuable. We're going to add in Bogarted Hellkite, which will allow us to divide 5 damage among any number of targets. This card also has Flash, so very nice to be able to use it on other players' turns for any additional targeted removal. Okay, and then the last card we're going to talk about in this section is Ureni, Song Unending. Not only does Ureni have some built-in protection, when it enters, you can go ahead and divide X damage among creatures and planeswalkers your opponents control, where X is the amount of lands that you control. So this is a very versatile late-game board wipe, as well as it is a massive flyer. Getting double ping damage because of Miirym, very valuable with these dragons, but let's go ahead now and jump to talking about creating other dragons. So let's start off with Her Majesty, Lathaliss, Dragon Queen. So anytime a non-token dragon creature enters the battlefield while Lathaliss is out, she will create a 5/5 dragon token with flying. So if she gets cloned thanks to Miirym, this will really allow us to scale our attacking board quickly. We also have Skyline Despot. When Skyline Despot enters, it makes you the monarch, so already a pretty decent effect. But if on your upkeep you're still the monarch, you get to create a 5/5 dragon token with flying. So these are some options that will allow us to scale our dragon army very well. But now let's go ahead and talk about buffing up that army. What are some things that we run in order to pump them up? Now to quickly mention a couple cards, we run the Crucible of Fire. Very simply, this will give our dragon creatures +3/+3. And another valuable enchantment is the Bower Passage. This will make it so creatures with flying cannot block our creatures, meaning the only way to block our army is going to be with things with reach. So while not technically unblockable, close to it because reach is relatively rare. So those are a couple of options that we'll run that'll be unique to a dragon type deck, but let's go ahead now jump into ramp. What are we going to be playing in order to get our deck moving? So in our colors, we have a lot of options that would be generically available. Your Llanowar Elves, Goblin and Archaeomancer, your Cultivates, we're going to run all of that stuff, but we also have some options that will be uniquely run in a dragon deck. We're going to run a lot of cards that are going to reduce the cost of our dragon spells, making those higher cost dragons be a little bit more affordable. So we have cards like Dragonlord Servant and Acolyte of Bahamut. Both of these are going to be reducing the cost of our dragon spells. Next, we have Sarkhan, Soul of Flame. Not only is he going to make our dragons cheaper, he's going to go ahead and become a copy of a dragon when it enters. So this will allow us to go ahead and get double ETBs, or say if we're going to play Miirym, then still have enough mana to play some additional cards, we can get even more dragons created. Very powerful and very useful card to want to find. We also have things like Timur Battlecrier. This will allow us to have some additional ramp when our large creatures attack, and this is almost everything in our deck, so getting some good value out of it. And the last card to mention is Ganix Astral Hunter. When Ganix or other dragons enter the battlefield, this allows you to go ahead and create a treasure, so very important one to go ahead and copy and keep on the board so you have continuous ramp. But those are going to be some options we're going to run for ramp in this deck. Let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to get cards in hand with our card draw options. And we have some generic options to start off with, like Timur Ascendancy. This is already pretty useful because it gives our creatures haste, but when we have anything of power 4 or greater enter, we also get a card draw. So double usefulness here. And we also have Garruk's Uprising, giving us a draw on the big guys, as well as giving us tramp. But to talk about a couple of unique options that we might run in a dragon deck, we're going to start off with Corlessa, Scale Singer. This will have a pretty simple effect of allowing us to cast dragons off the top of our library. We also run Imarith, Desert Doom. So when Imarith hits face, we're allowed to draw a card. But if you have fewer than 3 cards in your hand, you can then draw cards equal to the difference of the damage dealt. So before any dragon buffs, this will get you back up to 5. Then the last card we'll mention here is Dragon Mage. So when Dragon Mage hits face, everybody wheels. So those are some of the cards that we're going to run, so we have some good card advantage. But let's go ahead and talk now about interaction. What are we going to be doing to keep ourselves protected, as well as what we're going to be doing to keep our opponents at bay. So as far as protection goes, we have a couple of cards that are actually more going to punish opponents for targeting our stuff rather than directly doing things like counter spells. So we run something like Thunderbreak Regent. This creature will make it so anytime one of our dragons gets targeted, Thunderbreak will be dealing 3 damage to that opponent. Not only can 3 damage add up over time, if he's doubled, then this is 6. It's a surprisingly powerful deterrent, and it's usually also going to make it so your opponents are going to target this instead of the higher value piece because they don't want to keep getting punished by this over and over. We also run the Wrathful Red Dragon. This will make it so anytime one of our dragons is dealt damage, we can deal that damage back to any target. This is also a great deterrent because we can take this damage and actually go ahead and hit face. We also run some interaction to stop other players. So we have something like Kega the Tidestar. So when this dies, it allows us to steal a priority creature. And we also have things like Steel Hellkite. This will allow us to remove targets based on their CMC when it deals combat damage. But alright, those are some cards we'll run for interaction. Let's now talk about our win conditions within this deck. So with all these big powerful flying dragons, a very simple win condition we can rely on is swinging out in mass. We run a couple of cards in order to support this goal. So one could be multiple combats with Scourge of the Throne. He is capable of giving us an additional combat step, and if we've got 2 of them out there, hey, that's enough to wipe everyone out. We also run some creatures that are going to be designed to give some huge buffs to our dragons. So Adhikar the World Ender and Thrakkus the Butcher are both cards that are designed in order to double the power of our dragons. Thrakkus being a little bit more powerful, as if we get 2 of them out there, it's a little bit better than having just double strike. We also run the Fires of Yavimaya, allowing us to swing out with a massive board on a later turn. Now these are some great options to be swinging out with all of our dragons and dealing damage, but what if I told you we didn't even have to swing with our dragons? What if the dragons just went boom? All right, we're gonna run a Dragon Tempest. Not only does this give haste to our creatures with flying, whenever a dragon enters, we're gonna deal X damage to a target, where X is the number of dragons we control. So as our board state continues to build, we can go ahead and use this to ping down target creatures or target opponents. But Dragon Tempest is weak sauce. We also run Sarkhan's Unsealing. This is going to make it so anytime a creature of power 4, 5, or 6 enters the battlefield, we'll deal 4 damage to any target. But if a creature of power 7 enters, we juice up, and Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So with Miirym out, any 7 power dragon entering is going to essentially be board wiping them, and it won't be too much long after that their health totals will be down to 0. Y'all see why dragons drive me insane? Not only do they fly over my head, they also ping me to death. There's no winning. But alright, that covers the primary win conditions we'll be wanting to look for in this deck. Let's go ahead now, let's move into piecing all of this together and how we're going to actually operate this deck throughout the phases of the game. So in the early game, we're going to play a lot of cards that will allow us to draw and set up our different ramping options. So we're going to play things like our Tamir Ascendancy in order to get some draw, Acolyte of Bahamut, and Sarkhan Soul of Flame in order to start decreasing our dragon cost, and play Kralessa Scale Singer in order to start finding the cards we need. Then as our ramping options are getting set up and we're transitioning into the mid game, we're going to want to start playing some more impactful cards, things to create tokens like Lathalis Dragon Queen, dealing some additional damage with ping like Thunder Dragon and Dragon's Tempest, finding some additional cards that we might need with the Dragon Mage, and protecting our own creatures with Thunderbreak Regent. And in the mid game is when you're going to play your commander. You're going to want to get them out fairly quickly, that way you can maximize the value of your dragons entering the battlefield. Then into the late game, we're going to start looking for the win, and we'll play cards like Sarkhan Unsealing in order to start dealing massive ping damage, the Fires of Yavimaya in order to give our dragons haste, Thrakkus the Butcher in order to double the attack of our massive creatures, and Scourge of the Throne so we can have multiple combats and defeat all of our enemies at once. Well, alright, that's the deck. While dragons do tend to infuriate me, I do love this commander. He's so chaotic and has so many different ways to find win conditions. But alright, if you've made it to this point in the video, please go ahead, give us a like and a subscribe. It helps out more than you know. And please go ahead, comment down below what cards would you run in your Miirym deck, and let us know if there are any decks you'd like us to cover in the future. If you wanted to kickstart your Magic the Gathering collection, head on over to 4ktcg.com, grab yourself a booster box and some gear in order to start playing Magic today. Thank you all so much for making it to the end. I have been Anton from 4 Knights, and go out and play some Magic.